Hey, I'm Tiffany, and I'm the writer at HopeJoyInChrist.com. I just wanted to come for a few minutes and talk with you about marriage. That's kind of just a piece God's put in my heart to just minister to wives inside of their marriages. And this week, Bud and I are celebrating our 14th wedding anniversary. And in those 14 years, we have had some good years and we have had some rotten years, just kind of the way that marriage just ebbs and flows, right? You have the good years, you have bad years. And this year has actually been one of the best years yet, which is so exciting. So exciting to have a really good year. I would not say like great, although I expect great things now that just the course of our marriage has changed. It feels like each year gets better and better as we really learned how to love each other and accept each other in, whatever state we're in, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that. So this year, let's go back just a second and say every year at our anniversary, we always do something, right? Even when our marriage has been crazy, even when it felt like there was no way our marriage was going to last, we would do something together for our anniversary. And usually, we are super boring people. So usually it's like dinner and a movie. Sometimes we'll go away, like it just depends. It depends on finances. It depends on how much time we actually want to spend alone together. Like even when we struggle to find a babysitter and get out of the house and go out together, we will try to do that for our anniversary. So during the course of that night out, inevitably we will begin to talk about what was good in the past year for our marriage, what was not so good for our marriage. But this past year, the idea to have kind of a state of the union for our marriage began to kind of tickle in my brain. I saw someone kind of reference that, that they had done that in marriage counseling, had suggested that they have this very official check-in for their marriage at their anniversary. Somewhere else it talked about doing it, every quarter. And I don't know that my husband would sit down with me 4 times a year and check in about our marriage. But even for a husband who's not big on the communication stuff, who really doesn't want to sit down and evaluate our relationship, right? That is not the guy thing to want to do usually. But at an anniversary, I feel like it's kind of an acceptable thing as a wife. We can say, hey, let's just check in. Even our country does that. That's where the idea of calling it a state of union is. And so as I began to talk with Bud about that, he was so okay with it. But I didn't want to surprise him. Do you know what I mean? Like as women, we are kind of master communicators. We can very quickly overwhelm our husbands going from like one thought to the next thought, one point to the next point. And we've kind of been thinking about our relationship all along, whereas they maybe haven't. So the idea of kind of writing out the questions and letting him have some input in what we talked about, letting him see the questions before so he could actually be thinking about them too and come to the conversation ready with his own thoughts, so that we are actually having a conversation. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Do you get that? Do your guys kind of get that overwhelmed with, I don't know where you came up with that question. I've never thought of that, huh? And then instead of having a conversation, what I find, this is my marriage, I'm just going to tell you, I will start to say things and talk about things that I've been thinking about for a long time. And on the other end of the table, he has like this blank stare, and I get these like guttural sounds from him instead. Oh, those are the responses. And so I don't want that. So I came up with the idea to have it in a worksheet. All right, so this is on my site, and it has just some basic check-in questions so that he can see them in advance. I can have thought about it and everything. Yes, Angel. Oh, I'm so glad I'm not alone. Every once in a while, I'll say to him, that wasn't a word. I have no idea what that meant. Could you tell me what meant in that? I don't know. So anyway. Okay, so in this, Bud and I agreed in advance. Like, we didn't just hit our anniversary talking about these. We talked about in advance what are the big areas in our marriage that we could look back and evaluate. And so we talked about communication. We talked about intimacy. That, you know what I mean? I mean, that's a big thing. So let's talk about sex, and let's talk about our sex life and what that should be. Okay, talking about our parenting, our spiritual growth. He wanted to talk about our spiritual growth. That in itself is a testament to how much God has changed our life in our marriage. I just praise the Lord for that this year. He wanted to talk about having more fun in our marriage. So I added that. There's a whole sheet where we're going to talk about having fun in our marriage. How do we do that? How have we done it in the past? Are we making fun dates? And then my friend Alonda Tanner, so she's going to have an article coming out about it, and I'm waiting. Girl, if you're watching this, I'm waiting for you to write it out. She talked about having these date night jars, and so Bud and I talked about this, and he's like, that is a good idea. Then it's not like spur of the moment, what do you want to do? Okay, so what do we want to do? So we talked about like sitting down and planning out some fun dates where he gets to pick some dates that he thinks will be fun. And y'all, I'm imagining paintball and NASCAR in my future, and I'm just going to have fun with him because that's fun for him. And then he has agreed that whatever I think is fun, so maybe we're going to go paint. Maybe we're going this for our anniversary this week, we're going to go sit and listen to a Bible study teacher because that's what I find is fun. And he's really cool with that as long as there's some give and take. So he gets to have some fun, I get to have some fun, we get to have fun together. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, Kayla, that's awesome. So timely, right? So then we talked about, we talked about having dreams and goals for our marriage. So, oh, hold on, I missed about our finances. We had a whole section about our finances. A couple of years ago, we went through Financial Peace University, Dave Ramsey's program, and finally got to this year finally to a place of debt-free, which is so freeing. So we can dream. We can plan a vacation. We can think about fixing up our home. We can think about all kinds of things financially now that we never could before. And that actually was one of the first real marriage check-ins we've done every year to say, like, this was our financial plan. How did we stick to it? So I'm so excited to expand that and talk about more than just money because that's not always a fun conversation. Okay, then we talked about, like, let's have big dreams in our marriage, in our lives. Like, you know what? I have dreams personally. I have things that I want to accomplish in life, and he does too. But how often do we do that together? And so we talked about like going on a mission trip together, serving together somewhere, doing something bigger than ourselves in the coming year. And it was so fun just to sit and dream. Do you know what I mean? And like a real dream, not the one that starts as you drive past the lottery sign on the highway and you start to think, oh, if I won the lottery, I would do blah, blah, blah. No, these are real dreams that we could actually, not that you can't win the lottery, but I'm saying you have to play the lottery to win the lottery, and that's not our life. So anyway, after we talked about dreaming, then we went back through it, and this part was so much fun. Okay, so in the past, let's see. We said rate the overall health of our marriage. And this is not the one we filled out because he wanted me to keep that between us. But to say that, you know, there was a time in our life when we would have been like one heart and now we're four. Like there's so much growth we know we still have. But man, just to look at it and to see that it's growing, that it's doing better, and to say what's the one thing that we want to do better in? You know, what's the one area where we can focus on growing? Because when we think about our marriages in a bad place and there's so many things to fix and so many bad places, it can feel very overwhelming. So we just picked one thing, one area where we wanted to grow and to make a plan. Like, what are the things we're going to try to do about that? You know, we picked a podcast we're going to try to listen to together to grow in this area. There are different books or marriage, like online conferences. We are more prone to do that just because it's hard to get a babysitter. So we can do that at night night after the kids go to sleep, as long as I don't fall asleep. I don't know, maybe that's a mom problem. So anyway, this is really cool. It was a lot of fun. And then we kind of did it rough on paper, and I was like, well, what if we made it something bigger so people could go and get it and have it in advance? And on it, okay, I forgot to say, so, you know, it wouldn't be me if I didn't add the Bible into it, because, you know, the Bible tells us there's wisdom in ordering our steps. There's wisdom in looking back and planning. And so in each area over here is a verse. So it's a verse that we use. I'm not a big like life verse, but there are verses that we can apply for certain areas of our lives. And so there's a verse for each one that we can kind of keep up and have a reference through the year. So we're keeping our eyes fixed on God. And it's there. So I wrote about it Monday, and I'm going to drop a link to it in the comments. There is a free checklist to kind of get you going in it. And then he and I kind of sat down and designed some fun little frilly artsy things that's in my shop. It's just a few dollars if you want to pick that up when you're thinking about your anniversary in the future. But I'm just so excited. I'm so excited about when you look back at it and you evaluate it together and can see kind of what he thought and what I thought and where's the middle. I don't know. It was a lot of fun. So, and I'm going to drop this video into the piece about how to use it and how to go through it. So if you did pick it up in my shop, just drop me a comment underneath and let me know how long you've been married. How long have you been married, and what is the area? Like if you had to pick the one area that you really want to grow in. Okay, drop that in, and what kind of things would help you to grow in that? As he and I are talking about our past year, we're also talking about the next year with the website, and what kind of resources could we share together to help you all grow in your marriages. Let me know, and I can't wait to talk to you again. You be blessed.